criticism or any kind of distinction. You know, we want to make this very civil. Okay, so if we get questions like that, we throw them out. Okay, okay. So our first question, I'm going to start with Margaret, and it's going to be the same question for everybody. And the question is, what is the most critical problem that Duarte faces, in your opinion?
And this is 1 minute, right?
1 minute.
Okay.
Starting now.
In my opinion, it is, at this point in time, it is homelessness. I've walked my district, and that is probably what they are concerned about the most. We are working on that and have been for the last 3 years, and even though our numbers are down for the homeless in the city, we keep on going out and attacking the problem. We have an outreach coordinator that we hired 3 years ago, and he goes and visits every one of the homeless people that we have identified, and trying to see if they need help, if they need to get into some sort of drug therapy, or if they need a house to live in, a hotel, something. But that way we can go ahead and keep our streets and parks clear. So we are trying to help the homeless by having an outreach coordinator. Thank you. Cesar?
You know, I think each issue is important. As council members, we look at several issues day to day, so to say that there's one that's more important than the other is a little unfair. But I think residents in District 6 feel that homelessness is an issue. Catalytic converter theft is a big one. I think in the past weeks we've seen a spike in that. It's like every night, at least one or more than one resident has been a victim of catalytic converter theft. Something that I want to focus on is mental health. I think since COVID, we've seen a rise in mental health, especially in our youth. And I want to make sure that we bring resources to our schools, to our teens in the city, and that we address the issues that our students are facing day to day. Not just the youth, I think even adults have been affected with everything that's going on around the world. Just as we were walking in today, a gentleman said it's hard to be positive when there's so much going on, and I agree. But we're all here trying to make a difference in this community, and I hope to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Luz?
Thank you. I would like to say that one of my priorities would be to focus on public safety, ensuring the safety of all of our neighbors. I reach out to public safety, and all of these numbers are public to every one of us through our website. There's weekly updates, and I'd like to say that, you know, since last year to now, we have an increase in crime rates. It has been going up, and it is now at 8% above what it used to be. And so these are numbers that were given to me from our public safety office. So I think it says something. Although they were down eventually, now they're up. You know, COVID happened, everyone was home. Now everybody's at work, so crime is back up. So, you know, focusing on neighborhood watch, I had one not too long ago, a couple weeks, and we had 27 people show up. It's bringing back that sense of community, getting to know our neighbors, and being there for one another. Thank you.
Thank you. Art?
I think the two biggest problems that I've seen recently with regards to statistics is theft, robbery, and/or homelessness. And to piggyback on what everyone else has said here, those are probably the biggest concerns.
I also agree that, you know, strengthening that relationship with the school board as well as the city council, that collaboration is important. And it's important to have programming that enriches, you know, our youth. They are the next generation of leaders. And as a product of this community, I have to admit that, you know, our Duarte High School and having programs like mentorship programs are what helps a lot of the youth succeed in the future. As a member or as an advisor for youth in government, those are some of the programs that I participated in and that I volunteered now as a grown-up. And those are programs that help the youth broaden the horizon and learn about government, the functions of government. And those are little things that I feel we can also bring to our schools and let the youth experience what government is so that we have a more active participation in our community and more local engagement with our public. So I'm happy to hear that, and I also, I agree we need to have a stronger collaboration.
Thank you. Okay, Art. Thank you.
Wow, I don't know what the numbers are, to be honest. When I graduated 30 years ago, I'm sure if you look at those numbers between now and then, it's a lot different. And we don't have, certainly half the programming that we have now versus then. And, you know, I think that's a shame. And that's something that we should look forward to bringing back, whether it be ROP classes or other trade programs or what have you. So again, you know, we're down a school because of closure, and now we certainly should be trying to build on bringing more students back. But again, it's all going to be in how we advertise and how we use, you know, new classes to bring in new students. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask you a personal question now, and we're going to start.
I have the passion to serve. I have volunteered over 4,000 hours to this community, and that is because I love this community. This is where I grew up. I have all the opportunities that I have because people took the time to mentor me, and it has given me an opportunity to grow, and now it's my time to give back. And I would like to be a voice.
Where it's unique to Duarte itself, you know. Merging those two, my community that I've grown up in practically all my life, and being able to merge those together and really give back and really be a champion voice for the community. So and that's what I love to do, and that's what I'm here to do.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to forget you this time, Margaret. You get to tell.
Thank you. What I bring is experience. Now, I know you think, well, okay, you bring experience. Well, John Fasano retired 2 years ago. My dear friend Zeidel passed away. Brian Urias passed away. I'm the only person on the city council now that has any of this institutional memory. We have 3 council members that have served less than 2 years. We have a council member that has served 3 years. And then I believe Sam has been on for 8.5 or 9 years right now. So I bring experience. I also bring a lot of volunteerism. You don't go ahead and live in a community for this long without doing literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things with volunteerism. I also bring a lot of regional and state and national experience to the table, and I think that benefits our community in extensive ways, bringing grants to our community, and we don't operate in silos in cities either. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Cesar.
What do I bring? You know, I'm a very passionate person, energy, enthusiasm. I love serving others. I say this humbly, I think I was born to serve. I find passion in serving. I'm big on transparency, integrity. I'm a team player. Our theme this year for our campaign was strength and collaboration, because I really think it's together that we can get further. I'm able to bring people to the table and work as a team. Like I mentioned earlier, I've worked in the restaurant industry for the past 8 years, and so I'm familiar with what our restaurant owners, their struggles, what they need, and how we can help them, and how we can bring more businesses in Duarte. You know, a lot of our budget, over $10 million of our budget, of our revenue, came from sales tax alone. So if we bring more businesses, more restaurants, we'd have more funds to keep investing in these programs that we so want to keep and expand.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we're on to the next question, and this time, Art, you get to be first. Sure. Okay, and the question is, how do you feel about policing in Duarte?
How do I feel about policing in Duarte? I think the sheriffs that are here do a fairly decent job. Do I believe they can do more? Yes, absolutely. Do I think they can do more in terms of engaging the community? Absolutely. There's from a traffic perspective, I think they can do better in terms of some of the issues we've had with traffic safety out here. I know there's certain areas where we hear about speeding and things like that, and I think their presence can be felt a little bit better, not just from a ticket perspective, but also just engagement with the community itself, and I think if they listen more, you might get better results. So.
Oh, thank you. Okay, and then Margaret?
Thank you. LA County Sheriffs. First of all, I want everyone to know I do have the support of the LA County Sheriff, ALADS, and I am a huge supporter of theirs. A number of years ago when I was doing my master's in public administration, we did a level of service index comparing city police departments with contracting with the county. And first of all, it was about 50% less to contract with the county, but because we had an amazing city manager back in the early 90s, he went ahead and he basically said, we want our own substation up here. So we have our own substation up here now, which cuts, if you don't have it, people are commuting back and forth and it's cutting into our time that the sheriffs are spending here. So I think our policing is good, but there are definitely improvements that we want to make. And with some of those things, we've been, Art Valenzuela, he's an amazing sheriff with the young people. So I think he's an example that they can all follow.
Okay. See that.
I actually have to applaud the job that our sheriffs do in the city. While it is true that in the past few months, Part 1 crimes have been up, other cities have been up 40%, over 30%. Yes, there's room for improvement, but you have to look at our numbers compared to other cities. They do a tremendous job. I see our officers engaging with the community, going to the schools, visiting our youth, finding ways to give resources and really preventing crimes, getting them young. There are hotspots in the city where there is speeding, and I think their presence could be felt, and we can also do our job as council members to maybe look into speed bumps or other methods that would keep speed down in those areas. I've called for more patrolling. That doesn't necessarily mean more patrols in Duarte, but I think there's hot spots in the area, especially along Huntington Drive, where a lot of our commercial, a lot of our businesses are at, where we can see more of our patrols, especially late at night, early in the mornings, to prevent some of these commercial burglaries and residential burglaries. With a small city, it's hard to keep our officers everywhere at once, but I think they do a tremendous job.
Thank you. Okay, Luz?
Thank you. At our neighborhood watch meeting, we had the sheriff's, our captain there, and so he was very descriptive with, how many officers we have at our public safety office, how many motorcycle cops we have, and the difference between the vehicle ones and then the motor cops and what they each specifically serve in our community. So I think there was 5. I kind of remember that number, and some will focus on traffic, others will focus on crime, and then we have one at the high school. And so is there room for more? Yes, there probably is. And I think we have a contract where if in need, we're able to get assistance. But more than anything, I think it's educating the public. They might not all be present and it might not be quick, but if we educate them, if something happens in your neighborhood and you want to speak to an officer, you have the right to ask them, I would like to speak to an officer, and they'll engage with you after they come and they check whatever it is that you are reporting.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go on to question 5, and here we're going to change the subject altogether. It's on climate. Okay, and we start with Margaret and go down the line. Do you feel electric charging stations should be available in Duarte? And if so, where should they be located?
Well, considering that we are going to be going all electric by 2035, I think we're probably going to have to up our game with regard to electric charging stations. I feel that this is something that it is an issue. I was talking with Lucy Jones, who is the earthquake lady, the other day when she was at a conference with me, and she said she is kind of shifting right now because we haven't had any earthquakes lately. She is shifting to climate change, and it is absolutely true. For whatever reason, our climate is changing, and I think a lot of it has to do with some of the things that are man-made. So I totally agree with that, and it's something that I would like to see. As far as where to put them, that's something I think we need to put them at local businesses and also at City Hall and even at schools, because everybody is going to need them.
Thank you. Okay.
I agree. I think when it comes to climate change, we all need to do our part. As we've seen with the recent heat waves and so much happening, as a city, we need to help that. And definitely, I am for EV charging stations. There are a few around town, some in Target who recently just put in, I think, over 20 charging stations, some at Walmart. But we are looking into it. I think in the past few meetings we've discussed this topic. We haven't said where or how or by when, but we see the need for charging stations, and I agree we need to start with our city facilities, our schools, and then reach out to businesses and see how we can assist with that. But definitely we need to go that direction.
As someone who currently works for public utilities, electric vehicle charging stations are pretty hot right now in the market, but they are very expensive. You're talking anywhere between $45,000 to $65,000 just per each equipment station. On top of that, we're talking, the monthly maintenance fees and all these other things that you have to join in order to service that. And I agree it's a good idea as we move forward through electrification. These are some of the things that as a community we need to have proactively in our parks, any public facilities, but they are expensive. So I would also recommend that we look within our current public purveyors and we are able to possibly provide incentives to residents who have electric vehicles in which they can probably receive incentives just for putting one up in their own home. So those are just some of the ideas I think we should do.
I think it's quite interesting that with regards to electricity and EV stations, that the city or the school district hasn't put up more solar panels in use. You see lots of other cities doing this, school districts and so forth. I don't believe any of our schools have any of that available right now. So that's certainly a need that could be put up there. If you want to incentivize it for teachers or employees to have to use electric vehicles, that might be one way to go. As far as the locations, I know that they have added them at Target, at Walmart, and so forth, but there is a cost associated with that. Although they do charge to use their stations, that's where they're going to make their money back. But again, I would start with the school districts first, the schools around town, and start there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on, and we're going to have Cesar. He's going to answer first, and this is still climate, about the climate. And what actions has Duarte City Council taken to combat climate change? And do you have any suggestions?
Recently the city was awarded a platinum award for their efforts in helping reduce emissions and going green. The city of Duarte is the first city in California to have its own fleet of electrical buses. There is solar panels on top of the fitness center and I believe the Duarte Teen Center. There are also smart thermostats throughout all city buildings that, you know, turn on, turn off. And we have a smart sprinkler system that at times does need some help, and we've been contacting our city manager about that, and they are working to look into that. But, you know, they're supposed to be smart and shut off when there is a leakage. Sometimes that doesn't happen.
course.
But, you know, technology has its pros and its cons. But I think the EV charging stations, more solar, is definitely important.
Thank you. Okay, Luz?
I would have to say a lot of it has to do with educating the public and adding more workshops in our community that educates us how to change, you know, our light bulbs and, you know, energy efficiency appliances as we move forward again through electrification and having, you know, LED lighting and possibly having some of those donated to some of our residents. So those are some of the ideas. And then also, I would have to say that as the city, I do appreciate their efforts moving toward a more energy efficient, but definitely taking a little more time to educate the public about it and also being able to facilitate rebates and some of these things for our residents.
I think another way that we could utilize solar power is through our parks. We definitely can use solar paneling on the buildings at either at Royal Oaks, Duarte Park, even on top of the bathrooms, like at Beardsley and things like that. You know, that's definitely an opportunity there. With regards to water, we can definitely go drought tolerant to save water as well. As part of a climate initiative, we don't have, I don't nearly see enough of that in the parks itself. So I think that's definitely something where we could be most beneficial in terms of saving our, saving the climate.
Thank you. Margaret?
Okay, thank you. I take a little bit different tack here on this. As I mentioned before, I've been involved with regional and state government. And climate is not something that stays just within the border of our city. There's something called the Regional Housing Needs Assessment that we have to go through. The state mandates it every few years, and we have to plan for housing. Now, I know you go, housing, what's that have to do with it? Well, if we have housing built closer in, then people don't have to drive the great distances to come in to work, which then, of course, you've got clogged up freeways, you've got air pollution. So we've handled a little bit differently, and we have built housing here, which other cities are going to be mandated to do also. We've just been a little bit more cutting edge, and we have built housing here to accommodate the needs of people that are going to be living in our city and shopping in our city and sending their kids to school in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to ask about a measure, Measure J. I think you guys are probably familiar with concerning the $25 minimum wage for healthcare workers. Do you approve or disapprove of Measure J? And we're going to start with Luz.
So with Measure J, out of 30 plus businesses in our city, this would really only apply to one of our healthcare facilities. And so it's almost singling one out, in my opinion, and not really focusing on all healthcare workers. So I'm glad this is on the ballot. This is something that all of us should have a voice in, but it only focuses on one healthcare facility and not all the other 30 plus. So I feel like that's the issue that I have with that measure. It only singles one organization out. And so, again, it's my understanding that City of Hope has already taken their own initiatives, and they've, you know, raised their minimum wage. And so I would leave this up to the voters. I'm glad it's on the ballot for voters to make a decision on this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Art?
Yeah, before I came here this evening was something I was discussing with regards to Measure J. And yeah, I know that there are other facilities here in town that have healthcare workers, but I'm pretty sure that the largest one is City of Hope. So they're probably the most affected. My guess is that their nurses union probably would approve something like that. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't spoken to anyone there, but you know, if it's true what they say that it brings to the table that $25 wage for everyone, you know, then I wouldn't say that's not a bad thing. I'd say it's a good thing. So, you know, in that terms, if everything is true that it says it's going to be, then I would be for it. But if it's not true, then I don't necessarily know that it's going to be beneficial to everyone there. So,
Thank you. Okay, Margaret?
Thank you. I have researched this endlessly because this is going to tremendously impact our city. First of all, there were, and I should let you know, SEIU supports me in almost every election. So I am not anti-union or anything else, but there were 10 cities that were cherry-picked in Los Angeles County. Duarte was one of them. The only facility that will be impacted by this in this city is the City of Hope. I have a son who works at the City of Hope, and he's helped to explain it to me. But what this is going to cost to our city is going to be between $125,000 and $175,000 a year because we are being mandated to police it. Also, I worry about the loss of jobs because Orange County and Irwindale and Monrovia all have City of Hope offices there. So I worry that we're going to lose jobs if we're having the $25 an hour. And if they want to make it statewide $25 an hour, I say then that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You know, I'm glad my colleagues and myself and the City Council chose to send this to the ballot. I think this is something that the residents have to vote on. They have to do their homework, do their research, because there's the way it's written, it's a little interesting. So at a personal level, I work at a healthcare facility. For those of you that don't know, I work at Royal Oaks Manor. So do I understand staff shortages? Yes, I do. Do I think there's ways to get, you know, a better wage? I think this initiative doesn't quite do that, but I do say vote, do your homework, do your research, go out there and vote. I think there is a bill coming down the state that will eventually get those $25 an hour, and I think I would just wait until the state passes that.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready for the next question. And this question is on mental health, and I'm starting with Art. Okay, have you been involved in any hands-on experience with supporting mental health? That's the first part. Then how would you actively support suicide prevention initiatives?
Many of you don't know this, but at the current time, I have a younger brother who's been dealing with some mental health issues, and I've been helping to take care of him. So it's something that hits home, and I know there's quite a bit of info out there, but there's not enough services, and there are many great services out there. There's just not one blanket for for the different types of mental health that there are out there. I'm currently fighting to get services for him, and it's been a hard-fought battle to keep some of the things for him, not just insurance-wise, but just the other services that he's going to need on a daily basis. So, but
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Margaret?
Thank you. I am somewhat familiar with mental health issues here in this state because I have a son who already had 2 children, and he and his wife felt it was something, a calling for them was to foster adopt 2 children. So they went through the system in Central California, and they started through the process. And the thing that was so sad about this whole thing was the parents of these 2 little boys, who have now since been adopted by our son and his wife. These were people that desperately needed mental health services, and in this county, they were so overloaded, they could not go ahead and take them. So I think they need to be funded to a higher degree, especially since we've seen this problem over the last 3 years with COVID.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, mental health is a big one, especially the last few years. I think everyone at some level has experienced, whether it's anxiety, you name it. U.S. Congresswoman Napolitano is a strong advocate for mental health resources, and just today I read all the bills that have been passed, and there's millions of dollars in funding that are available for schools and youth programs to take advantage of. Currently, public safety, through a grant, works with APU to provide therapy and resources for our high school students. Now, like I said, it's in a grant, so once those funds run out, we have to find a way to partner and make sure that that stays funded and that we expand it to more students. Ulises Gutierrez is in the crowd today, and he's part of Inspire. That's his business, and he's big on mental health resources, and I've had the opportunity to go to his events and partner with him whenever available. Last year, a family friend took his life at the Metro right off of Mountain, and so that was a big wake up for me, and that touches home. So I want to make sure that that doesn't happen to anybody else.
Thank you.
Mental health is important in our community, and it is something that is affecting everyone at any age. I definitely think we can be better at it. We can have, a support group that definitely focuses on mental health that could be reached and that can connect us to higher level type of help. And so, for example, Inspire, they have a wonderful cause, and they are here to help anyone. And so I often share their messages because I feel like we don't have anything like that here in Duarte. And so through our church, we collaborate with them, and mental health it's out there, and we need to definitely get together and help those that need it. So focusing on focus groups that will help us connect to resources or actual, help, that's something we do need to strengthen in our community.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're moving on to another question. Okay, and this has to do with your civil engagement, and we're going to start with Margaret. Okay, how have you been involved in civil engagement and in supporting your community, which we already know?
Where do I start? Can we be here until midnight? You know what? When I moved into this community back in 1985, we had 3 kids at the time. And I knew that the way we were going to be able to build up this community was not leaving it to someone else, but jumping in with both feet. So my husband and I started with that, and I've been PTA president at Royal Oaks, of the Monrovia Duarte Council. I've been on the Library Commission. I currently am president of the Duarte Rotary Club, and we do a lot. I'm very proud to say that we do a lot in our community. And the Duarte Education Foundation, over the 30 years that I have been president, we've bought, numerous musical instruments for the kids, and college scholarships, and egg drop contests, and we've done lots and lots and lots. And again, I did it because I wanted to see our kids do well, and I think they are doing well now in our community, as was shown when you said they have gotten better. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been trying to find out where the passion was lit, but since elementary school, I was a volunteer for what they called the Purple Jackets, which would help other students with homework assignments, or when there was little heated arguments in the playground. I started there in middle school. I stayed after school to help my peers with their math homework. In high school, I was really involved with Dart. I was in the multicultural club, Interact. After high school, I did AmeriCorps, People Helping People. This past Thanksgiving, we partnered with restaurants and once again with Inspire to give out turkeys for families that were in need. I've helped with food drives at my church, at the senior center, clean parks, beautification projects, most of them here at Westminster Gardens on Cesar Chavez Day. We did a labyrinth this past Cesar Chavez Day. We shoveled mulch around the area to help with the drought-tolerant with plants, and you name it. I'm very hands-on. Like I said, I have a lot of passion for helping others and love for this community. So
Okay, thank you.
I'm talking fast because the timer scares me. You're good. You're good.
She's scared. That's why we have her.
Yeah.
Keeps you on your toes.
So after high school, I went straight into Cal Poly, but even through my elementary years, I was part of leadership, and in high school as well, I was part of leadership. And I graduated from Cal Poly Pomona with a BA in psychology, and I knew that I wanted to give back to my community. I joined AmeriCorps, and I say that lightly because you do have to go through an interview process, but one of my good mentors, Zaidel, who I worked for at the Y, she encouraged me to not let the passion and the fire in me for helping my community die. And so she went ahead and she mentored me so much. And when I joined AmeriCorps, it was like the first beginning taste of the public sector. And I knew that this is where I wanted to be. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And so through the years, I've given back to my community. I've been a coach, a basketball coach, which I don't really know much about basketball, but they were in need of basketball coaches, so I did it. And youth and government advisor, and I also helped our teen center, the AXO participants. So I have been involved in our community.
Thank you for that involvement. Okay, Art?
Thank you. As I said earlier today, or this evening, I've been involved in volunteering for over 25 years. I think it first began in 96 when I joined LULAC, and so I was involved with LULAC ever since. Then I coached a few years with the wrestling program at the high school from 2000 to 2003 or so, somewhere around there. And then with some of the other organizations, other nonprofits here in the city, giving back turkeys as well, at our church events as well, selling Christmas trees, and some of the other youth programs there. So, you know, I've been around, I guess. Some of you might know me from those nonprofit groups. So, but you know, I continue to volunteer as much as I can when I can. Nowadays, though, with respect to my work, I'm not as freely as available, but I still do when I can. So, thank you.
Thank you, Art. Okay, we're going to move on, and Cesar, you're first. And this is a hot topic right now, affordable housing. How can the city more quickly increase the number of affordable housing units?
Yeah, that is a hot topic. I think the average house in the city of Duarte is over $690,000. Our neighbors in Monrovia are past $1 million. So affordable housing is a hot topic. The city currently has a plan, and there's designated areas that they've talked about to get that done. I think it's just, there's over 21 capital improvement projects that have been approved for this upcoming year. But we are a small city. We have less than 50 full-time employees. So there's a lot of things that are on our radar, and I have the full trust in our staff, and I'm willing to work with them and our partners across county lines to see how we can speed up the process and find areas in our area where we can develop affordable housing.
Okay.
Affordable housing is important in our community. I would have to say that this initiative would have to take, possibly creating an ordinance or dedicating a percentage of developments going to affordable housing, or possibly incentivizing developers who choose to create a percentage of their new development into affordable housing. Like Caesar said, the median household is now in the 600 range, and it takes a family to be able to afford something like that. The city could proactively do a little bit more in that sense. So hopefully in future development or policy, we do include something there along the lines that will definitely focus on affordable housing.
Yeah, I know the current project that's going on at Highland, and the units that are being built there initially was designated to be a percentage of affordable housing there. I don't know whether or not that's still a current initiative there or not. I haven't heard anything as of late, plus they're not on the market yet, but my understanding is that initially they were supposed to be slated for a certain number of affordable housing units there. If you look at what other projects have been going on, I don't believe any other, aside from that, there was nothing designated for that measure here from the city itself. So it's certainly something we should take more into account, and it should be something that we focus on to make sure that it's equitable for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Margaret.
Thank you. I guess I've been around long enough where I've seen what the state has done to really take away affordable housing from us. We had redevelopment in this state for many, many years, and when you made a development and you got the tax increment off of it, then you could take that tax increment and use it for affordable housing. That no longer exists as of 2009. They've taken that away from us. So what are we doing here now? Well, the state has said, hey, why don't you guys build ADUs? They're called accessory dwelling units. Whereas before, the cities had no options, or the cities were able to take care of the accessory dwelling units. Now the state says, wherever people want to build them, that's fine. Now, we've had some growth with those, but now with RHNA, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, we have to set aside a certain percentage of our growth for affordable housing. So that's something that we've already planned for in our city.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to another question. I got everybody, right? I got you all checked off here. So, okay, so we're moving on, and this is a question about race. It says, do residents of color feel they are valued in Duarte? And we're going to start with Luz.
I mean, as a person, myself, as a Latina and a Hispanic, I want to say that I've always felt inclusive, and I felt like I was a part of this community. We also have on an annual basis our Unity March, and that is something where our teen, our youth, and our local residents get together and, represent what it really is to be a community regardless of color. And I feel that this community is inclusive, and I'm a part of it, and we are all different colors, different races, and I feel like together we make Duarte a better place.
Great. Art.
Having been here for a number of years, since '77, I could tell you that probably didn't always feel like that. You know, we didn't have that voice, or at least from my own personal perspective. I would say over the last 20 years or so, it has gotten a lot better. But I'm sure if there's people out there, you ask them, there's still room for improvement. And I think it just goes to, depends on in what regards. So we have, in terms of with police, maybe there needs to be better inclusivity with that. But for the most part, I think, like I said, it has improved. But we still have a ways to go, and we definitely can continue to improve. And until that answer is 100% yes, we will always be continuing to chase that. So,
Thank you. Margaret?
Thank you. Being the grandparent of two little Hispanic boys, I believe that the future is much brighter for them than it was for kids growing up when my kids were growing up. It used to be where people would say, oh, let's go ahead and select them because they're this color or they come from this background. And it was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and we're going to give everyone an equal opportunity. And that's what I've seen. I look at our city council. Our city council looks like a little United Nations. And I'm really pleased to see that because frankly, when I look at Caesar, I don't go ahead and think, oh, wow, am I the same color as Caesar? He's just Caesar, and I love working with him. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. The question was, do people of color feel
Valued.
valued? I would like to think so. I think you just mentioned it yourself. Look at our council. It's diverse, and I think it's a great representation of Duarte. Duarte, what makes the city so great, it's his diversity, its inclusiveness to others, and like Art said, years ago, you know, that was questionable. Like I mentioned, my grandparents came here over 40 years ago, and where they lived, you know, it wasn't always it wasn't always pleasant. So I think the city has improved a lot. Is there room for improvement? Always, for anything. But I think people should feel valued, especially now with the districts that we had 4 years ago. The last time somebody had been elected from that area was in the 80s. And so 4 years ago, we got that representation that we wanted and that a lot of people were looking forward to. So I really hope people feel heard. And I would do my part to continue being a voice for everybody, not just District 6, but the whole city as a whole.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on with some questions, I guess, kind of about who you are and how you would affect this position, what you would bring. Okay, and the question is, are there any conflicts of interest that would affect your ability to represent the city? And we're going to start with Art.
The only conflict I can see of is my brother David sits on one of the commissions. So in terms of a conflict, that would be it. So he's, but aside from that, you know, I don't see any other potential conflicts. So
Good. Okay.
thank you.
Margaret?
Thank you. Conflicts. I don't believe I have any conflicts at this time. I don't ever have to leave the room. I remember when John was on, anytime we voted on Edison, he had to. I don't work, you know, in an adjacent city, or I don't work for a company that is that we do business with. So I don't know of any conflicts that I have. Thank you.
The question was also, what do we bring to the seat, right?
No, that was my little commentary. I'm
so-
sorry.
So just conflicts. Yeah, not at all. I think since being appointed, I've never had to recuse myself, and if so, we have a really good city attorney who keeps us on our toes and lets us know, hey, this might be a conflict of interest. I can't see or think of anything at the moment that would be a conflict of interest.
Okay.
I've learned that the FPPC is watching. And so if there was ever a moment where I'd have to step away, I'm sure I would be guided to do so. I work for a public entity. However, from what I've experienced in the past few agendas that I've looked through our city, none of them have closely affected in anything that's passed through the Duarte agendas. So I don't see myself having a conflict of interest, but if I did, I would have no problem walking away from the item.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to start with Margaret, and the question is, do you believe there should be term caps? If so, explain. And
I'm sorry, you said, should there be term limits?
I guess it's term limits, but they say term caps.
Oh.
Term limits. And
know, Okay, go ahead.
okay,
sir.
just explain either way. Either way you go with it.
Okay. Having term limits the rights of the voters. And as someone said to me one time, yeah, we do have term limits in our city. Every 4 years, they can go ahead and vote us out. I trust the voters to make the right decision, and I know people say, oh, well, people aren't really reading up on these things. Well, I trust the voters. I think they do a good job, and one of the problems with having term limits is if you're only in for 8 years, like I'll take Arcadia, they have 2 4-year terms, then they sit off for 2 years, and then another 2 4-year terms. They can keep going ad nauseum. The problem with that is then you get on these regional boards like John Fasana. I can honestly say we would not have the gold line if it hadn't been for John Fasana. He worked his way up Metro, and we were able to go ahead and have the chair of Metro helping us get something good in the city in the gold line. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know how many cities have term caps or how many cities don't have term caps. I'm not aware. I think there's pros and cons to having term caps, but at a personal level, I think after 3 terms, you need, personally, I was inspired to run by my mentor, Zaida Parks-Karachi. I hope to inspire somebody else to run in the future. I just think that's a good idea. Whether it's be caps or just a personal decision, I do not know, but I think it's a good idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I do believe in succession planning, and I really do believe there should be a cap in terms, whether it's 3 or 4, but after that, if you haven't accomplished what you promised every 4 years, then there's either something wrong with the leadership or it's just something impossible to accomplish. And I definitely do think that there should be a cap in terms. It creates a disadvantage for newcomers, and it also it doesn't allow for others to be encouraged to serve and to publicly say, hey, I want to run. It's hard to run, and it's hard to be here. So I definitely do think that there should be a cap in terms.
Well, the short answer is yes, there should be term limits or caps. If you look at our city council or our school board, you have city council is just Margaret now, but prior to her, there was Fasana, who was there long term, and if you look at the school board, there's quite a few, couple of school board members who were there since I was in school. So, I think it's important that we bring in new blood and we bring in new ideas, and there should be a change. You know, you want to be able, if you should be able to encourage other people to run and to bring new ideas to the table, and that's how you continue a legacy. So, you know, yes, there should be term limits.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Cesar, we're going to start with you on this one. And it's, if you received $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Do I have to choose one specific, or can I divide that grant?
It doesn't say, do it your way.
Well, mental health for sure. We talked about it earlier, expanding youth programs. I've been talking to our city manager about internships, whether it be a summer internship, a 6-month internship, something that, you know, we lost our AmeriCorps program, something that would proceed. Dart, you know, there's some students that need that extra help, that need that extra encouragement, and I think working at a city facility could inspire them, you know, to do something more. I invested in our public safety, making sure they have the tools and resources to do what we talked about earlier, you know, catalytic converter theft, residential and commercial burglaries, you name it, street repairs, traffic signals. The cost of everything, I come to realize now that you're on council, everything is so expensive. Just putting up a traffic signal is thousands and thousands of dollars. So we already have some ideas for that $1 million grant, and if that grant is somewhere out there, please call me after this forum and let us know how we can apply.
Okay. All right, Luz.
What would be the total amount? What was that?
$1 million
Oh, boy.
grant.
Well, I mean, there's so much I could think of. Reinvesting it back to our community, whether it's the youth, our seniors, our streets, providing some sort of incentive back to our homeowners, you know, whether it's window replacements or facade improvements or new paint on the house, or even, you know, he brought up signal lights. So I'm thinking of Royal Oaks, the new one we have there. How can we widen to Royal Oaks just in that area so we can have a right turn, and then, or, you know, the traffic gets pretty jammed up there during school hours. So there's always room for improvement and to do more. I think we do a good job at already investing, but we can always do more with the money.
Well, I think the first thing I would do is use that money to put together a program that would bring internships for students to work with the city, because something that the school district has failed to do, and incentivize children to come and learn trades, so that we can show that as a city we care and that we're bringing new jobs, and give them the skills and tools necessary to come and work at the city, and whether it be landscaping, horticulture, maintenance, things like that. I think that's something that we could put together as a city. We don't have to be the school district to do that, and I think in terms of biggest bang for your buck, that would be it.
Okay, thank you. Margaret.
Thank you. We have written for many grants from the state, the feds, Los Angeles County, SCAG, which is Southern California Association of Governments, and we have received literally millions and millions of dollars. If you take a look down at Duarte Road, everybody remember how Duarte Road looked about 10 years ago with the dying oleanders on the north side of the street, no sidewalks. That was a grant that was that our city wrote for. So typically grants are written for, and our city has done a really good job getting a lot of grant money. Metro, again, through John and his length of time on Metro, we were able to get grants from Metro. But if I were given $1 million for anything, I would go ahead and put it into recreation, because it would be repaving the bike path, because that is our, whether we like it or not, that is kind of a downtown for us. You meet your friends out on the bike path. We've put money into Beardsley Park. That's another downtown area where people meet.
Okay, thank you. Okay, time is wrapping up here really fast, but I have this one question that I really want to ask, and that's how does Duarte work for its senior citizens, and how do you think this could be strengthened? Okay, and then I'm going to start with Luz. And this is our last question.
Okay. I do know we have our Duarte Senior Center, which is very active during the day. The meal, I believe they serve the meals, and I remember volunteering from time to time with the Senior Center. But more than anything, I think we can also help by improving our sidewalks, because at the end of the day, they should be walkable by everyone, whether it's accessibility for all, if you're in a wheelchair, or they should be safe path of travel for everyone. And definitely also focusing, even like Meals on Wheels used to be a thing, and hopefully one day we can go back to that, where we could deliver meals throughout the city for our seniors who can't or don't have the accessibility to a vehicle or driving. So those are some of the things I would focus on.
I know there's quite a few programs, like Lou said, there's for the seniors. I think one important issue or concern, just because I do have, one of my parents is volunteers, and I help volunteer with him at senior centers where he volunteers at, and that is rides. So they don't necessarily have access to Uber or Lyft, and they're constantly calling on access for rides, but at the same time, their waiting periods are very long, sometimes up to an hour just for a ride. So if there was something that was better suited for them, I think that's something that might be a concern that we could bring on, something that would get them quicker access, especially since now our city transportation it costs. So anyways, that's what I would propose.
Thank you. Margaret?
Thank you. If any of you aren't familiar with our Duarte Senior Center, that was built in the early 90s. It is an amazing, amazing senior center, and frankly, we are the envy of the San Gabriel Valley. And I see Steve Hernandez back there waving his hand, and Steve is very, very active there as a volunteer. We run that senior center on 1.5 staff members, but yet we create programs that are unbelievable in their breadth and depth. So, but what I would like to see more of, and this is something that CS Arts has started, they send their students who are amazingly gifted young people, and they come into the senior center and other places and give seniors the opportunity to go ahead and hear excellent artistic people. So I would just like to see that with other young groups here in Duarte to go ahead and help. Thank you.
All right, Cesar.
I saw Steve got a shout out, so I have to shout out Ann Wilkins, who is also a very active volunteer. Ann, how you doing? I couldn't let this moment pass without really saying and taking my cap off to Susie Perez, who's the director at the Senior Center. They offer hot meals, they do food drives, they go on excursions. I think the programming, beach volleyball, is one of my favorites to watch. It gets, yeah, right? Steve said yes. Hats off to all the staff that make that possible. The DART team also goes out to seniors' homes who have fruit-bearing trees, and they help them
Wow.
harvest that,
good.
and they donate it to the Foothill Unity Center. So if there's any seniors out there that have fruit-bearing trees, contact Ada Torres. Burtec also provides help if you're a senior or if you need assistance taking out your trash bins. Burtec would do that free of charge for you. So I agree that we do great for our seniors. We can continue doing more. And hats off to CSRs for doing that, for providing entertainment for our
Thank you.
seniors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't see your stop sign,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so that wraps it up for our questions. Now we're going to move on to our closing arguments, and it's been a really good evening. Let's keep it going with the closing arguments here. And we're going to start with Art. You get to be first.
You said arguments?
I'm sorry. Closing statements, it's late. I'm sorry. 1 minute. 1 minute for your closing statement. Forgive me. No arguing.
Oh, no argument. Again, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for everyone watching. My name is Art Rodriguez for District 6. I'd be honored to have your vote and to serve you. Again, I'm here to champion your voice, your concerns, your issues. Feel free to contact me. voteforart@hotmail.com. I appreciate any feedback if you'd like to send me as well. Everyone have a good evening, have a great week, and don't forget to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Okay. Liz.
I would like to thank all of you for being here. I would like to end with, I want to represent you, teens, seniors, pets, all the members of our community, our local businesses, all of you, and always serving you with transparency no matter what the outcome is. I want to serve you with truthfulness, and regardless of what that may be. I am passionate for serving my community. I have a wonderful family, and I will always fight for a better tomorrow for my children and yours, for our pets, and so forth. Again, I'm Luz Yesenia Paez, candidate of District 1, and your vote is important now more than ever. It's time for change.
Once again, thank you, League of Women Voters in Westminster Gardens and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. If you didn't notice already, I'm not a politician, but I am a public servant, and I have a lot of passion, enthusiasm to serve the community that I love. I take pride in this community. I want Duarte to continue to be a great place to live, work, play, and raise a family. I'm committed to expanding programs for our youth and seniors, provide mental health resources, support public safety with the tools they need to prevent residential commercial burglaries, speed bumps, lighting, safe crosswalks. I'm proud to have endorsed by U.S. Congresswoman Grace Napolitano, Senator Susan Rubio, Assemblymember Blanca Rubio, but most importantly, I am proud to have the endorsement of my friends, my family, and my neighbors and local business owners. Thank you again. Have a great night. God bless you. Buenas noches. Please vote for Cesar Andres Garcia this November 8th, and you can visit my website at cesarandresgarcia.com. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the biggest compliments that I ever get is when a new family moves into our city and they have been able to look at all the other cities to live in, but they want to live here. And they want to live here because our crime rate is down 3.5% according to Brian Villalobos with Part 1 crimes. They've seen the superior parks and recreation activities we offer. They love the easy access to all of LA via the Gold Line, and they are reassured by the financial stability and excellent employees in our city. And we have the highest reserve that we have ever had since I've been on the council. I am invested in the community. 5 generations of my family have called Duarte home since 1977. We have a lot of new members on our council, and I think there is a distinct need to keep some institutional memory on there so we know what's happened and not to make those mistakes again. I am also endorsed by LA County Sheriffs, all of the sitting city council members, all of the current school board members, Grace Napolitano, and most of all, my family. Thank you very much to the League of Women Voters, the Chamber, and most especially my friends here at Westminster Gardens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you out there in the audience, and thank you to the candidates. I have just a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up. I got to do our commercial here for the League of Women Voters. So, okay, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this forum. I want you to know that, and I'm preaching to the choir because I know all of you vote or else you wouldn't be here. your hearing. So we want to make sure that you're registered to vote, and if you're not, you can go to lavote.gov/register of voters, and it gives you all the election information, and you can register to vote there also. There are flyers in the back with the QR codes available tonight to give you information about the upcoming election, so you could also do that. And if you like what you saw tonight, you can go to our web page, which is I don't even know, say it again. LWV-PA.org. Okay, or mylwv.vote. That'll get you to the league. So thank you very much for having us, and thank you and good luck to all of you. Okay.
I just want to repeat, our city council can only make a difference if we vote for them, especially the people who would like to be in the seat. Again, thank you. Very special thank you to Bernadette Chang. The chamber cannot take all the credit. We are very grateful to the League of Women Voters Pasadena. They worked diligently and with a lot of intent and love to help us put this together. And thank all of you for being here and giving us an audience to make this happen. Good night, drive safely home.